Welcome everybody to A Little Perspective. My name is Pranav and this is Nikhil. Today we had the opportunity to have a conversation with Lisa McIntyre. Lisa is the CEO and owner of the Optical Shoppe, as well as the board chair for the Globe Theatre in Regina, Saskatchewan.
Her journey, vision, and story towards entrepreneurship and her love for Regina was really inspiring. I hope after listening to this conversation, you all leave with a little perspective.
Welcome everybody to A Little Perspective. Today we have a very special guest with us today, Lisa McIntyre. How's it going, Lisa?
Good. How are you guys doing?
So
Really
far, so good.
Yeah, so far so good.
It's Mother's Day, so pretty delightful.
Yeah.
Had a good start to the morning. How about
And
you?
it's sunny out, so
Right.
you can't complain, right? It's nice and warm.
That's true. So Lisa, before we start the podcast, we asked the guests to get the ball rolling, introduce themselves, what they do. So how about we start the podcast with that?
Okay, great. I'm Lisa McIntyre. I was born and raised in Regina. I've spent my whole life here, but I've been very fortunate to travel quite a bit around the world. So I have some different perspectives from that. And I was raised in a family business. So I spent a lot of time learning about that business, and we sold it in 2018. And that's when I sort of took my next steps and moved into entrepreneurship on my own. And I own the Optical Shoppe in the Cornwall Centre. So I'm a solo entrepreneur, but have a lot of fun doing it and have some great staff. And the other half of my life is community-based. So ever since I was young, I grew up going to curling rinks and hockey rinks and fundraisers, and that just sort of rolled right into my life. And now I have some pretty big roles in the community. I'm the chair of the Globe Theatre Board. I sit on the Regina Downtown Business Improvement District Board, and I help with a few other organizations on some fundraising for the YWCA. And that's, I think, it right now, but I am known to forget a few community things that I do every once in a while. But the last big one was probably Grey Cup in 2022. I had a big role in that, and that was a lot of fun.
Tell us more about that.
Grey Cup 2022, I helped with 2013, and I had a smaller role in what was called pageantry. And so that's where you paint the town green, for lack of a better term. So getting flags up, getting, buildings to change their lights green so the whole town looks great. After that, I did some other roles and events. I've planned some galas in other community organizations. And so when Regina originally got the 2020 Grey Cup, I got the call and said, do you want to come on board and run our events? And I said, yeah, sure. So I committed to that in 2018, I think it was. And then the pandemic happened, everything got pushed back, but we made it to the 2022 Grey Cup, and I had a co-chair, but we were able to take on 7 different event portfolios, and we had an amazing team. We couldn't have done it without the volunteers below that. So each of our committees had a co-chair structure as well. So we ran the party rooms, the gala, the indoor tailgate, the outdoor tailgate, the cheer extravaganza, and I think I'm forgetting something, but there was a couple others in there too. Oh, the CFL awards we helped with. So that was a huge part of Grey Cup. So we got to run all those fun events. Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's so super, super cool. Like growing up in a business background and then, starting your own business must feel so rewarding. Tell me, how was it growing up in a business background? Like, what are the things that you guys talked about? Like, what was the family environment?
Yeah, so we kind of had a rule of you don't really talk about business at the dinner table. We didn't get into that, but you just collect the information almost through osmosis and just being around it. So you would hear bits and pieces. And our previous family business was my dad, his 2 brothers, and my grandfather. And so you would hear a bit of it here and there, but it was more like the empowerment of owning your own business and the hard work you put in and the reward you got back is what we got to see. And so we could see, if we were sick as kids, my dad would bring home paperwork and work at the table with us. And we just got to see that sort of different lifestyle. And my mom worked a government job, so we saw that too. And it was interesting to see both. And then as we grew up and going to university, we had more conversations about the difference in working in government versus working in private, benefits, downfalls of both. There's no right choice. There's just different choices. But I also got to see the community involvement side of it too. So it all kind of blended together in me, I guess. But
Right.
yeah.
So, like in our recent podcast with Ben from Bravo Tango, he talked about like this one thing called the entrepreneurial's itch. So he said like he was, no matter what he did, he was destined, or like he always had this in him that he was going to be an entrepreneur. So like you mentioned, since you had like two perspectives, basically like your dad's side and your mom's side, working in like a 9-to-5 job and working like their own business, what made you decide to pursue entrepreneurship? Because like you said, there's right and wrong answers to both. So you always had it in you?
I think I always had it in me, but I also took the time and got some experience. So I had summer roles within government. I had some roles in private industry. I did a term at the Chamber of Commerce. And so I got sort of that perspective of working in a community member-based organization, then went back to government for a bit before going to work for my family. And I just found I really like, well, the control. I like being in charge, but I also like the agility you have or in a family business or in a business of any kind when you are in charge. So I can pivot, which I've had to do many times in our business, but I found government to be restrictive. So while I'm sure I would have succeeded and been able to be a leader in government, I didn't like the restrictive nature of being in a bureaucracy. I like to have the freedom to say, no, we're going to do this instead of this, like today, because I want to, and there's usually data to back it up, but I didn't have to follow a policy or guideline. Mm-hmm. And so I like having that freedom, I guess it is. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I feel too. Like, although I'm super young, like I'm 23, but working for somebody else and like, of course, like you learn a lot at your job. You have a great manager, like Jocelyn is amazing. You learn a lot. But at the end of the day, you just feel like, I want to do my own thing. Like, this is great, but I want to be able to carve my own path. So I get what he's saying, like having that entrepreneurial itch. And I guess Pranav and me, we both have that. Like, we want to do something of our own. Like, this podcast is just, we used to listen to a lot of podcasts, and then you thought, these people can do it. Why can't we?
Mm-hmm. I think there's different ways of going about that. I've always known I was going to be an entrepreneur in some way, didn't know what that was going to be. But my mother, on the other hand, she worked a government job her whole life. She excelled at it, was a great leader, but she also had this community arm. So that's where she made her impact. And even today, it's Mother's Day, we went out for brunch and someone came up to her and they said, "You're Regina's top volunteer." So she's made a lasting impact outside of her career as well. So there's different ways you can do it. Yeah. Like no right or wrong.
Right.
But if you want to work a more regulated job where you're like, maybe it's less stress, government's still stressful. Just a different stress than entrepreneurship. But maybe you do want to make that community impact and have that legacy. But it just depends how you want to frame it and what you want to do. Because entrepreneurship's hard and it's not for everyone. And I'm sure there's multiple times we could have called it quits over the years, whether that was in the family business or even, 8 months into owning a business. Pandemic hits and I have to literally lock my doors. So it's a challenge no matter what. So you just have to choose which one you're doing.
Right. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned like, even like in your family business, in your own business, there were numerous days. And I feel like that goes with every business that's out there. You can call it quits whenever you want. So what's that one lesson or takeaway that you learned from your family business that you adopted in your own, that we are not quitting?
Well, that's a good question. I think when I look at our family business, it evolved over the years. We had it for 84 years in our family.
Wow. So
I think if you just keep doing things well and keep doing the right thing. So one quote I think of is, it's a Michael J. Fox quote, but he says, "Don't do the next thing right, do the next right thing." So it gives you something to think about. But if you keep putting together doing the right thing, the cycle will follow. And you're not guaranteed success, but one slip up, one bad month, because as I've learned in retail, there's a bad month every year and it changes and it gets you down and you might want to throw in the towel after a bad month. but it rebounds because you've been doing the right thing. You've been treating your customers right. You've been ordering in the right product. So you just keep going with that momentum and build success.
I'm going to ask you, how was COVID like? Because most retail stores were just on their knees. Like, how was that for you?
Yeah, it was difficult for sure. We were very thankful for the government support during that time. There were some subsidies, wage subsidies. But I'll say, like, the hardest thing I had to do was, like, the first full-time employee I hired in the store to come work for me, I had to lay her off. And that's a difficult conversation. She was a young woman and she had rent to pay and bills, and no one knew how long it was going to last and what the future was going to hold. So it's really emotional. It's really hard to lay someone off because no one did anything wrong either, right? You're not upset. They're not a bad employee. You weren't a bad entrepreneur. You're subject to the circumstance of the time. So again, we were fortunate. We got to bring her back 3 weeks later under the wage subsidy, found work to do. We called all of our customers during that time just to have a chat, because what else? We couldn't do anything. We couldn't sell anything. We couldn't have people in the store. The mall was locked. So we just went in and we went through all our files and we just called everyone. And that's what I paid her for another 4 weeks or whatever it was. But there was ups and downs through COVID beyond that. When we got busy enough bringing on another staff, but not full time. So that, affects how you operate the store. And then there was regulation ups and downs. So we had to figure out, what does masking look like when you're trying on glasses? How do you manage traffic flow in the store? What's the capacity? And every time the regulations changed, I could go back in my sales and I could track the day they announced new regulations, whether they were more or less. We saw no one for 3 days because it was just an uncertain time for people. So it was very difficult. There were a number of tears. I know most people probably saw me on like social media, still smiling, modeling glasses, but I can tell you it was tough because you just didn't know when it was going to end. And no one thinks that being an entrepreneur and owning your own business is going to be easy, but I certainly didn't think it was going to be this hard, this long, because we're still feeling the effects of the pandemic in the downtown, not just in Regina, but across the country. Retail has changed, people's shopping habits have changed, and our downtowns have changed immensely based on the number of people that are down there every day.
Yeah, no, that's true for sure. So when you mention like, like there's people don't see exactly what's, portrayed on like Instagram and everything. And you had like a lot of dark days, especially being like a fresh and young entrepreneur. Who do you look up to? Or like, who's that one person that you go to, or a group of people that you're like, hey, I can talk to these people and they will give me the right advice and I can just bounce back and get after it?
I probably have a few people. I think I rely on my family a lot. My parents are great resources to go talk through problems. I have a very, very supportive best friend who isn't an entrepreneur, but she sits and she listens, and she gets it and she sees the struggle and she can help me rally some others for support. So that's really helpful. And then I do have financial partners in the business and they've got a lot of business experience. So it's great to just get them on a call and they're very reassuring. We're doing the right things, right? We're putting our customers first. We're putting our staff first, all those things. So the success will come. We'll keep working at it. So really, you really have to focus on the long game, not the day in and day out problems.
There's this guy we follow. Probably he's thinking the same thing. Simon Sinek. And he talks about the infinite game versus the finite game. So most companies, they play the finite game, like arbitrary numbers. These are the sales for the week, blah, blah, blah. But the most successful companies, they focus on the long game, the infinite game, because they don't want to just reach the top. They just want to stay in the game as long as they can. And that's the tough part. So yeah, I love that idea.
Yeah, it's kind of the same idea I have, playing the long game, the infinite game. I also think success builds success. So if you keep working at it, keep putting your best foot forward, you're going to do that. And then I also have a saying, and one of my former leaders always said this: high tide rises all ships, right? So when things are good, it helps everyone. So if we can be successful as a company in the long run, that means I can employ more people. I can pay them better. You know, we have that bigger impact. We like to give back to community. So that means we can give back to more community organizations or give more to our chosen ones. So everything's connected, right? So if we can do better, we can raise everyone's game around us.
There's a cake for everyone on the table.
That's right.
Like if you do good, everybody's like, it has rippling effect. Like as a business, suppose Optical Shoppe does super, super good. The communities that you're involved in, they're going to do good. Globe Theatre would do good. Like other companies would take inspiration, right? And you would employ more people. That means more labor. That means more money that's going to come in.
Yeah. It just means more money moving in the economy, and that helps all of us, right?
Exactly.
So if we can do that, then that's what we're going to work towards.
Right.
You know?
So why the Optical Shoppe? Like how did that idea come to be? Because you remember, like we talked about this in our previous conversation as well. Like your family business was completely different, and this is like a whole new life. So how was the shift, and why this shift?
Yeah, our family business was completely different, but this was an opportunity that came to me, and being someone that sort of always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, I looked at it factually through the numbers. I thought about how it aligned with what I like to do. I can be very analytical, but also I like the creative side. I like having fun, music, color, all of that. So glasses bring fashion and function together, in my opinion, right? It's functional, it's science. You need glasses to see, but we can have so much fun with it, right? So it was a great alignment of the things I like. And then at the time, I loved the fact that we were downtown. You know, as I said, downtown's a bit of a struggle right now, and we're working on that. But I like being in sort of the epicenter of the economy and the action where the hub is. So those were all things that really aligned. And I looked at it and I was like, yeah, I can come in and do this. I'm great at sales. I'm great at customer service. And then we add in that, you know, it's a necessity that's fun. You know, why not? So it was a total change, but
a good one.
A good one, you know, meant to be at the time, and I'm sure there'll be lots more lessons over the coming years.
Yeah.
But it was the opportunity I took, and you know, there were definitely days during the pandemic where I thought, well, what if I had just taken that government job? I'd be sitting at home, you know, working away, not worrying about where's the next sale going to come from, or are people going to come in the mall today? Yeah. But I think overall, it has allowed me to do a lot in the community that I may not have been able to do in more of a traditional role.
In your introduction, you mentioned that you travel a lot. Mm-hmm. Has that given you like a lot of perspectives about life, or has that brought in more fashion sense in your, you know, the way you design your glasses? Has that helped you?
Yeah, I think it gives you a lot of perspective in terms of your leadership or what you see as a big problem. I think that's one thing for me, is being an entrepreneur, my perspective of what is a big problem has changed through travel, through leading staff, and just through my experiences. Because in some roles that I've had, people have come and they've said, you know, this, whatever it is, this document is this big problem. It's going to cause a lot of problems. But if you have the perspective of travel, seeing how other people live, the problems in other countries, or working with your family, which can be difficult at times, you sort of get that perspective of, that's not actually a big problem. That's an easy thing. We can solve that. Let's have a conversation. It's 30 minutes, 40 minutes, whatever it is. So I think those travel experiences really played into that. So, and part of this, I traveled alone. So I would go on trips by myself to foreign countries. I've done Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, a bit of Hong Kong, Morocco. So also when you have to like actually sort of fend for yourself and watch your safety and all of those things, some of the problems or obstacles you come along on that trip, you know, seem a bit more maybe life-threatening than, a problem with a cash flow or a sale or something like that. So it gives you that perspective of this is just a moment in time. No one's life is going to end over, a return or an upset customer.
Right.
Yeah.
It's funny. My best friend, he's in Morocco right now. He's gone for like a 2-week vacation. And he was telling me the same thing that, Nikhil, I live in like this amazing country. I have such a great job and, I live alone and all that stuff. But when I go to a country like Morocco and I see different culture, I see people engage in a very different way. Like it's a lot about family in Morocco. Like, you see street vendors sitting there with their kids. It's just a very different perspective. It just changes your mind in such ways that exactly what you said, that, you think, oh, my coffee machine's not working. That's a big problem. No, it's not. No, it's not.
Yeah, that's $100 fix maybe. It's not a big problem at all.
Right.
Yeah. So there's lots to learn from travel, and I would encourage anyone to travel as much as they can. Right after I finished my undergrad degree, I was able to go backpacking.
Wow.
And so that provides you with a whole different perspective. And that was in Europe, so pretty safe.
Yeah.
Right.
I do find that, when you travel to a country where you blend in, for those who can't see me, I'm blonde and white. So Europe is kind of like, I blend in really well. You feel a lot safer and there's a lot less risk than going to Morocco or
South America
or like Thailand, where I stick out like a sore thumb. Right. So, there is some safety and learning in that.
Yeah.
So, like you mentioned, and this like kind of coming back to like the whole point about like the pandemic and like when the days were really, really hard. How do you manage to motivate your staff? Because the thing is, like, if the leader is wavering off, that sort of probably affects the employees as well, or like the followers too. So how do you keep that strong persona, or how do you build that connection that, hey, I'm vulnerable right now. I'll make sure nothing happens to any of us though. So like, how do you keep that up?
Yeah, I think when I started, I thought I just have to be that strong person that no one saw your emotions. You just led, you said, we're here today. We're going to do this. There's a couple people coming in. We're going to do great work. We're going to sell some frames. We get to order some new frames, whatever that is, and be really strong. But when the pandemic hits, like everything sort of went out the window, and having to lay that first staff member off, I just say, I'm going to be strong for you. Unfortunately, like I can't pay you for the next 3 or 4 weeks, right? But I can still be a leader to you and help you talk through rent relief with your landlord. So how do we have that conversation so that make things easier for her? And then you learn through those things along the way, and every staff member is motivated different. So not that you treat them different, but you communicate with them a bit different. So I've gotten to know my staff really well, and they can pick up on when things are off. And so now we communicate that a bit differently. So as an entrepreneur, there are days where you probably didn't sleep the night before, and sometimes you can get through and no one will know. And other days, people know. And so just being honest with them and saying, I had a lot of anxiety last night. I didn't sleep. It's not about the store. It's not about you guys. We're doing great. And helping, like leading them through that, but saying, if it's not busy today, I'm going home. So being honest with them and sharing that emotion that comes with running a business or just being a human really helps. So then they give that back too and say, I'm not feeling confident right now, not feeling good. Is it okay if I take a day off this week? So they give that back to you too. And that really helps. But the pandemic probably expedited that learning process, I would say, that you don't always have to be strong. And certainly on social media and followers, we don't get on there and say that very much or at all. But in our store, we have great conversations with our staff and then with the public too. They feel that downtown has changed, and we have conversations with them about that and their concerns, and we're very real with them on those things. Yeah.
And you've mentioned that like quite a few times, like even like previously and like right now as well. What is the biggest change you've seen according to like your lens that's changed in downtown? And what do you want it to change back to or change towards?
Yeah. So the biggest thing would be the number of people downtown, the traffic. So in 2019, downtown had one of its best years ever, with the number of people that were downtown, the events that happened downtown, the engagement. So when you think of the things that the Downtown Business Improvement District does, there's salsa on the on the plaza. There are movie nights. There was food truck festivals. The Globe Theater brings like 75,000 people downtown a year in the evenings. The restaurant scene was really good. None of the restaurants were struggling with people coming in. So there was a nice vibe downtown, if I can say that. People were excited. It took a lot of building to get to that. When I was in university, the places you went downtown as a student were O'Hanlon's, and then Beer Brothers opened, and that was really exciting. And then a place called The Capitol opened up, which is now Lancaster's on Hamilton. But it grew from there, and we were able to start like sort of bar crawling downtown in this really nice area. And never did I worry about my safety, about being alone on a dark street, because that didn't happen. There were just people everywhere. So the biggest difference is the pandemic changed consumer behaviors and people's work styles. So more people are working from home. We know that recently the federal government said employees are coming back 3 days a week in the office, which is great. That's going to help. But there's still a lot of people who aren't back in the office. And the extra people provide extra safety. The more people there are, the safer you are. The more they're going to spend at restaurants, which means the more restaurants you're going to have, because it makes it palatable to open. And it just creates that atmosphere again. So it's going to take a long time to get back to where we were, because it took a long time to get there too. And so that would be the biggest thing. And it's unfortunately what I like to call a chicken and an egg situation of, if the people aren't downtown, the people don't come downtown. So how do we get that sort of ball rolling again and get them back downtown? And I mean, we're fortunate the Globe Theater's opening next November again after a 4-year renovation. But that needs to be sort of the first thing, hopefully get people back downtown. They come walk around the Cornwall Center. They go to a local business for a drink after, and they start engaging with the downtown again and feeling better about being there.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm going to ask you something, might be a little too deep, but what's your why? What gets you out of bed in the morning? Because it's not easy to run your own business, as you mentioned, especially during the times of COVID. What's your why? What gets you going?
I think I grew up in Regina, as I said, and was very fortunate to be involved in the community. And I got a lot back from the community in terms of the opportunities I was able to have. In what other city would you have someone in their early 20s helping with a Grey Cup, and then flash forward, 10 years later, then like leading a major file on a Grey Cup? So that's an experience that I got from this community. So my why is making this community better. Never have I thought about moving outside the city, moving to another community, because the people that are here have chosen to be in Regina. And we can have a great community, and we've sort of notoriously complacent, Regina, like things are okay, so we just keep moving, or we accept the standard. But we can make things better here, and we can have a great, vibrant community. We've got the great bones of Wascana Park and Victoria Park, and our downtown is really walkable and connected. So let's just keep building on that and make this an amazing place to live. Right? It's more than just the 20-minute commute anywhere in town. We can have the entertainment and the vibrancy and really make ourselves a little destination in Canada. So my why is making that better and building on that so that families stay here and we keep thriving and growing.
Do you have any ideas that you've implemented so far or are on the verge of implementing that you want to make your dream come true?
Oh my gosh, for the business, for the community, or
for the community, I would say, yeah. I would say for the community, because that's something that you're really, really focused on. And you mentioned since you are chair at the Globe Theater and also at the Business District, are there any ideas that you've implemented or you got something stashed up here that you want to throw out?
Well, I think one of the really exciting things about the Globe opening is the ability that we will have in our new building to activate the downtown and have people in there every day. And I will not claim this as my idea at all, but it is part of the renovation is that the building it is purpose built now. It wasn't retrofitted a theater into a building. The building has been completely hollowed and built back up purposely as a theater. And that engagement that we can have with downtown, where you'll be able to see into the carpentry workshop from 11th Avenue. So you can see the props they're building. There will be a second space that people can rent. There'll be an open lobby people can come into. So while this isn't my idea, I think that's a really exciting thing that's in the near future that we can do. The other thing, again, not my idea, but the renovation of Scar Street, which will take place. We were hoping it would be sooner, but in the next 5 years or so. I was very fortunate to go on a little bit of a cities tour across Canada and see how other cities do things. And we got to go to Halifax and see how their downtown engages the community around and how they've made it very nice for bars to open up on a street like Scar Street where people can freely walk. There's some taxi stands, Uber pickups, but having that like young nightlife happening in the downtown. So while it's not my idea, there's a number of people in community organizations and at City Hall working on getting more people downtown. Being able to see those ideas in other places and bring them back here, I think is really exciting. Again, it's going to take some time, but the more people we have working towards that and seeing the vision, like I can see what downtown should be. It's really exciting, and I hope we can see that come to fruition sooner rather than later. But it all takes time and money, and those are both finite resources for us. So,
what's your favorite city in Canada?
Oh, that's a good question. I didn't get to spend much time in Halifax, but Halifax was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So I would go with Halifax. I really like going out to Vancouver. So maybe it's the ocean that gets me.
Right.
But I really enjoyed Halifax. They have a nice condensed downtown. They've done some really unique things. They have a lot of like shipping containers that are used for bike rentals along the water. They have summer pop-ups. They have some really unique architecture. And they've embraced some of their heritage buildings, so they repurpose them into other things or build out of them. So it's got this European feel in its architecture. And then a bonus to Halifax is that they have a university right downtown. So they have 40,000 students making the streets lively every Friday and Saturday night, or Thursday, Friday and Saturday night, you know?
That's awesome.
So I think that was a really fun place to go. I only got about 3 days there, but it was great. Yeah.
I remember you telling me about that in the previous meeting that we had, like you wish UOR was way closer to downtown.
Yeah.
Right? I remember you saying something like at least one of the campuses or like even the business faculty, if it was near downtown, it would have been such a completely different place.
Yeah. As soon as you put more people downtown, it's going to be different. And students have different spending patterns and schedules than business people. So during the day, office workers are there 8 to 5, 8 to 6, whatever they're working. But then the students kind of come out 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. So there's people all the time, which would be so great. So if there could ever be an educational facility downtown, that would make a difference. And I think it'd be interesting experiment as business students if you are like every day walking next to the people that you could do a co-op term with or your summer student work with, right? You're every day on Scar Street having lunch beside someone that works at FCC or someone from KPMG or Deloitte or whoever it is. It makes that engagement and that networking maybe a little bit easier for you.
Right. Because like mostly there are corporate offices in downtown and people work 9 to 5. After that, they're going back to their family. Like nobody's out there drinking after 5. But other than like at universities, just kids are out there like all day. Like people are missing classes and go out and drinking.
Yeah. So it'd be great to have them downtown instead of just at the Owl.
Yeah.
Right. No, that's true. So, like you kind of give me like these vibes where, because I got to like ask you this question, but I'm going to tell you first that I bet when you were young, you probably like did like those lemonade stands close to your house. Because I feel like that's like the type of person you are. So like what's been like the very first thing that got you involved in like, hey, I want to do something better for the community?
Oh, something better for the community. I don't know. I definitely had an ice cream stand on the corner of my parents' block. And that's when you learn that, you made $10, $15, $20, but I didn't actually pay for the product, right? So little lessons in there. But I can tell you, I have some little cousins that their parents text me when they put up a lemonade stand in their community, and I go over and get some every time, because you got to support that. It's a great thing to have. I don't know what the first thing was, but I can tell you that, like, growing up, my mom was very involved in curling. She's still very involved in curling. So I was at the curling rink, and I think I mentioned this in another talk that I did, but I just thought it was normal that when you went to the curling rink with your mom, that the bartender had your own coloring pack behind the bar. Like, that was normal to me, that I was there so much as a kid that I had my own, like, container with a coloring book and markers and whatever, because I just spent so much time there because my mom did so much community work. So those are some of the first memories. And then I was selling 50-50 tickets at events, and people just knew me being at the rink. There was, an 8-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 12-year-old just running around. They just sort of knew that's Bernie's daughter. She's here helping out. And then I think it maybe really grabbed me when I went to high school. I went to Luther, and it's a smaller school. And so they just sort of say, welcome to grade 9. What are you involved in? What are you doing? How are you helping? Because the school does a lot of things, as all schools do, but there's less people to put them on. So there's a musical, there's a volleyball tournament, there's a basketball tournament, there's dances to plan and grads, and it's all hands on deck, because when there's only 100 kids per grade, it's not the same as some of the bigger high schools where there's 400 or 500 kids to help out. So I think that really grabbed me, and I really enjoyed helping, and it sort of spiraled from there. If you can plan a volleyball tournament, then you can plan a basketball tournament. And then, you can roll into university, and you can plan a spring gala, and then you can do a kegorama, and and so it just keeps building, and you get that experience. So it's sort of the same as business. You have a little bit of success, you keep going, you keep working at it. The events, I really like, because they're on a timeline. It's a project, so there's usually an end date, but there's also a sense of accomplishment when you've completed it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was telling you this as well. So for our viewers who don't know, so Lisa was part of the JDC West at the University of Regina, and also the Hill Business Student Society. So there were basically like business case competitions and a society for like all business students where they perform events. And she actually started.
You started the JDC West?
She was like, not like the JDC West, but like she started like a lot of them, like the charity organizations, 5 Days for the Homeless. I think you're the one who initiated that stuff, no?
Yeah, we were the first host committee of 5 Days for the Homeless at the U of R. So I didn't have the idea. I didn't start it, but we were the first committee the first year we did it. And I think we had a goal of, it was like $5,000 or $10,000. And I think we raised over 20, and we were just like blown away. And then we're like, how do we do this again next year? Yeah. So I didn't sleep outside. I want to be clear. I delivered food and helped. We did a date auction one year at the Owl as like a charity event for like 4 or 5 days for the homeless. Contacted restaurants to make sure that our students that were sleeping outside had food, helped them scout out their spots in the university to sleep in, those things. And then JDC West, I was able to participate on the team. My first year we went out to Prince George. And then the next year, we went to Saskatoon and Edmonton, and I was able to be the charity VP. And that's, like I said, when we changed over to Hope's Home. And we were able to support that amazing organization with our funding. Yeah. So we did a lot. We had a lot of fun.
You've been in almost everything the city has to offer. That's actually insane.
Not quite, but I have had my hands in a few of the different things, and it's fun. You get to know different people. You get to see different perspectives, how different organizations operate, and maybe you can help them a little bit, so make everyone better.
Do you have any stories or like a golden memory for all these events that you did?
Oh, I mean, there's probably a few I can tell. But I think one of the most, two from Grey Cup, I'll say, is that we did this event called the Cheer Extravaganza. And so it was always done as the CFL cheer teams come and perform, and anyone can come watch them. It's, it's a $5 or $10 fee to get in and see them perform. And we decided one of the pillars of the 2022 Grey Cup was family and engaging youth. So our committee said, we're going to have the CFL cheer teams perform, but we're also going to engage local cheer teams. So there would be a CFL team on, and then there'd be a local team, and then a CFL team. So it was a bit of a longer event, and it was in the Brant Center, and we projected getting, 500 people there, maybe 700, because it doesn't attract a huge number of people. It's sort of a very specific event amongst a number of other things. And so we budgeted for that and had the space. And because we engaged the community so much and those young cheerleaders, we had to start like opening up sections of the Brant Center to let people in. We ended up having about 1,500 people show up for this cheer event. And just to see, the kids perform, they never get to perform in the Brant Center. That's not something that a lot of youth get to do at cheer anyway. And amongst these sort of professional cheer teams, and then have all their families and friends there, it was just like you got goosebumps watching it because it was just so joyous. These kids were ecstatic and the families were so happy to watch. And even the other cheerleaders were just so happy to have kids alongside them. So that was like one sort of heartwarming moment from Grey Cup. And then the other was just, 5 days of 18-hour days at Grey Cup. I got to go to the game, and at halftime, seeing the stadium lit up with the performance, it just, it makes it all worth it. You're like, we made it through the week. There were probably some hiccups along the way. We may have run out of beer once or twice, but everyone is so happy to be at the game, and it was a success. And I can go and now sleep for maybe 18 hours after.
Yeah.
But those were two really nice things. And then, anytime you get to give a check to charity and see the impact with Hope's Home or anyone else, it just makes your day, right? Because it means so much to them and they really stretch their dollars. They go really far when you see how much a charity does. And so anytime you can hand over a check from whether it's a fundraising gala or any kind of event, 5 days for the homeless, Kegaram even raises money, all of those things. It makes you feel really good. It makes you want to keep doing it.
Yeah. Especially I feel like I can speak this on behalf of the people you give the charity to. It also gives them a sense of belief that we're doing the right thing. It's like how Simon Sinek also says that people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. Mm-hmm. So all this that you're doing for charity, it just gives them such a motivational boost that we're doing the right thing, mm-hmm. and people believe in our why. And I feel like that comes back to your own personal entrepreneurship, my bad, entrepreneur's journey that even your staff members as well, they believe in why you're doing this. Mm-hmm. And that's why they're with you.
Yeah. And it's great if you can spread that as much as possible. Right. With the Globe Theatre, I initially got involved because I thought it was a great thing to get involved in, but now seeing the impact, it really changes things and gives you a different perspective and a different lens to look through. And one of my fellow board members, the reason she's on the Globe Theatre board is because her son really likes theater and he's a great little actor and does a lot of musicals. I think he's 11 or 12. And she's doing it because she wants there to be a Globe Theatre in the future so that her son can perform there as a professional actor. So while I want there to be a Globe Theatre because I like theater, I like the entertainment, I think we need it downtown for the vibrancy. She's doing it for a completely different reason, but she shares that with us. And then that gives me just another reason to do it too, right? So.
Was that Jocelyn?
Yeah, it's Jocelyn. Yeah.
Easton.
Easton Lang, our little superstar. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. She has 2 kids and one is into musicals. He does ballet, he does dance.
That's the kid?
Okay. Yeah, that's the kid. He's 11, 12. And then the other kid, Avery, he's 16, 17. And he's into hockey. He's a sports person. It's complete opposite.
Yeah, they divide and conquer. One drives a kid to hockey and the other drives the kid to Sask Express. Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's great. Yeah.
So how's the journey been with Globe Theatre? You're the chair, big role. How's that been for you?
I'll say right now, it's probably more challenging than it's ever been, but it's a great learning experience. I'm getting to do things that as an entrepreneur, I would probably never have the opportunity to do. So we have a leadership position open in the theater and I will be doing an executive search. So hiring a search firm. That's something that, as an entrepreneur, I'm the executive. I don't really have to search for anyone else. I certainly hire staff and do job postings, but an executive search is very different. So that's something that is a new challenge for me. We're also under a $45 million building renovation. So making sure that comes to the finish line. And while I'm not in there regularly, putting it together, it's certainly my job to make sure that we have all the information and we know the risks associated. So again, huge capital project that I never would have had the opportunity to do otherwise. But it's a big challenge, and it's probably right now more than I thought it was going to be in terms of the time it takes and the capacity, but it's all going to be worth it when we open this November. But it's certainly been a journey from showing up to meetings as a first year board member and thinking I am the dumbest person in the room. And I mentioned that to another board member at the time, and she said, you may be the smartest person in the room, you just don't know all the information. You haven't been sitting around this table for a couple of years. And I still don't think I'm the smartest person in the room, but I certainly have the historical context of where we are now and how we got there, because I've been on the board for 8 years. So I can share that knowledge, that historical knowledge, which is really important to the theater. But the role has changed and grown, and probably at a pivotal time. Someone said to me the other night, we're sort of at a point where the Globe Theater, there'll be the Globe before Lisa and the Globe after Lisa, which is kind of funny to think about. And again, I don't take credit for a lot of the work that's going in, but I took over as chair when we're in this renovation, and when I leave the position in fall of 25, we'll have a fully open state-of-the-art theater. So kind of a bit of a wild ride there.
It'll be like a good reflection point.
Yeah.
Over these 8 years, what have you, like you said, the before and after of Lisa.
Yeah, I mean, the theater held their first galas in my time on the board. We've had our 50th anniversary. We published a historical book about the Globe Theater. We pushed the envelope on some plays, and certainly I have no influence on the plays we do. I shouldn't say no influence, but the board doesn't get involved in choosing the art. We just support it. So it'll be totally different, and we're so excited to be back in the building. I'm sure it'll be a very emotional night, opening, standing on stage, but it's going to be very, very exciting.
When's the opening ceremony again?
So the first show is slated for November 29th of this year. So we'll reopen with our Christmas show, which will be announced on June 11th.
We gotta go.
Oh, of course.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah,
No,
everyone's got to come
we want to
back.
see you at that at the stage.
Yeah.
That's something we're really excited about.
Yeah, we are so excited to be back in there. It'll be a historical moment. For those who don't know, the Globe Theater is in the round, hence the name the Globe Theater. And we are the only permanent round in Canada. So every other regional theater across Canada is a traditional theater where the audience is looking at the stage from one angle, and we are the only permanent round theater, and we're one of 6 in North America. So everything we do has to be a little bit different. We can't just pick up a show that was playing in Winnipeg or Vancouver. The sets have to be redone. It has to be reworked because essentially the cast can't come from backstage, because backstage is from 4 different places, when you think of where they're coming from. So it's a totally different theater and experience, and you could see a show somewhere else and bring it here, and it'll be all new to you. So
Right.
It's going to be historical. Yeah.
So excited to see, because all the theaters that I've seen are like, what do you call it? Proscenium?
Proscenium.
Proscenium.
Mm-hmm.
But I've never seen like a stage in the middle and audience all around.
Yes, we'll be all around you. So it'll be really neat. It's a challenge for the actors, but I can tell you that our artistic director just did auditions down in Toronto for next season, and she said it was overwhelming the number of actors that came out to want to be on the Globe's stage again. And so I can't wait to see who gets cast and to announce the shows.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. So how's like the dynamic been over these past 8 years? Like you starting from like, just a fresh board member to like the chair.
Mm-hmm.
And I bet there's like a lot more people, because I suppose like in like a board of directors, people come from like various experiences. Some people might be older than you, younger than you. How's the dynamic been leading as a chair now?
Yeah, I would say I've had a great board experience. We've had different chairs over my time. I had a great mentor in my first chair. I said, if I want to stay on the board and work towards a leadership role on it, what should I be doing? On a board, there's always committees. So there's, audit and finance, governance, those things. So she said, sit on each of the committees. Don't do it all at once, but first year do governance and nominating, and then you can sit on the capital campaign committee, and then you can sit on audit and finance, and you can learn all aspects of that, of the business and how we operate. And then if you want to be on the executive, that's a great time to put up your hand and do it after you've had that experience. So it's been a lot of growth, because like I said, I might have been the dumbest person in the room when I got there, because I didn't know a lot about theater. I knew about Globe Theater's place in our community, but how they operated, how they chose the shows, how they staffed it, where the actors came from, all of those things I have had to learn. And some of that has changed over time. But I just kept learning and taking on a new role and working with the theater and the other board members. And we've had a lot of change in board members, because some people stay for a term, which is 2 years, or sometimes they stay for the max amount, which is 8 years, unless you're the executive, and then they keep you for another 2. So I'm in it for another 2. But everyone's been so supportive, whether they're older than me, more experienced, new. It's just great to have the different perspectives around the board table. And I will say we have great discussions. We have very constructive discussions and feedback and differing opinions, but always really respectful. And I think that's what's important, is that we hear each other,
right,
and have that discussion. So we've got a lot on the table right now, and I scheduled an extra board meeting, but it's not a formal board meeting where we are doing reports and agendas. It's just a discussion for our board, so we can make sure we're all engaged and all have the same information. So that's really important for a board. Yeah. So it's been a true learning experience and growth for me too, just the different opportunities to do that and look at the organizations, and recently been very fortunate to connect with other theaters post-COVID. We have a great relationship with Royal Manitoba Theatre out in Winnipeg, and they've been a great resource for how to grow and how to structure things as we move back into the building. And that's, again, something I never would have gotten in a traditional work role.
That's awesome. Okay, so we would love to do like another podcast with you. We try to keep our podcast like for an hour. We want to talk so much about entrepreneurship with you.
Yeah.
But we'll keep it short this time.
Okay.
And towards the end of our podcast, we do like a rapid fire round.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask you 3 questions. He's going to ask you 3 questions.
Okay.
Don't feel overwhelmed. Just have to
sure.
answer in 1 word or 1 sentence.
Okay.
Simple, straightforward.
Okay. We'll try.
Okay. So being a leader, what's your idea of an ideal leader?
I think that's not a rapid fire question.
No, but I would say just go on, to be honest. We'll bend the rules this time.
I don't know if there is an ideal leader, because everyone's improving. So I think it's someone who communicates and is honest and transparent about where you're going and what your role is in wherever the company's going. So in terms of the Globe, I have certainly leaned on other board members who have more experience. I'm clear that this is our destination. I don't know how to get us there. So I need, we have an architect that can dive into the information on the building, and then she can tell me, yeah, we're on the right track. So I think it's that communication piece and just being open and transparent with everyone and not hiding anything, because people pick up on that.
What's one thing that you didn't value, but now you really, really do?
I think I really value quality time with people. So whether that's my staff or my family or my board members, getting that connection point is really, really important to me as I grow older.
What are you most grateful for in your life?
Oh, I think my family, just having a great support system and upbringing, and they're always there when I need them. So.
If there's one rule that you had to create and everybody on this earth had to follow, what would that be?
That's a hard one. I think you have to say, just be kind to others. Give people the benefit of the doubt. There is so much negativity, and it's easy to get bogged down in that. But if you just give someone the benefit of the doubt that they, made a mistake or didn't know something, rather than accusing them of, doing something wrong, I think that would go a long way. Just the rule of karma. Maybe that's a good way to put it.
Forgive and forget.
Yeah. Yeah. Do unto others as you want done unto you. Yeah.
The golden rule.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you could give one piece of advice to 20-year-old Lisa, if you could go back in time, what would that advice be?
I think it would be to trust your gut and go with your instinct. And that's hard when you're young because you don't know what you don't know. And there's still a lot of things I don't know. But there's a feeling inside of you when you know what the right or wrong decision is, and just trust it and stand behind it.
I'll think a lot about that. What's your favorite restaurant in Regina?
Probably Avenue.
Okay. On 13th, is that?
On 11th.
On 11th. Okay. Yeah, I think somebody else said that too.
I mean, it's a fancier place, but
Okay.
yeah, I love that. I could go eat out every night in Regina. We have great restaurants, and again, I'm not doing a rapid fire answer for you, but but I try and do my best to pick somewhere downtown and somewhere that's locally owned. Those are my two big things.
Awesome.
I know where I'm having dinner tonight.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, this has been an amazing episode, Lisa. Thank you so much for coming out and having a conversation with us, because I believe not just us, but like our viewers have learned so much from you, and the personality that you have and like the ideas that you have, they all come to fruition so good. And we're really excited for your own entrepreneurial journey, Globe Theatre, and everything that you're involved with.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. Yeah, I'm excited to come back another time when maybe I've learned a few more things.
We can't, sometimes we feel this imposter syndrome that we're just so grateful that people like you agree to be on this podcast, because we're just starting out in a basement. We have nothing for us like right now.
Yeah. My advice for you would be don't be scared to ask.
Right.
You know, if you don't ask, you don't receive. And the worst thing someone can say is no.
Yeah.
And then you move on to your next guest.
100%.
We've had a lot of no's.
Well, time is a problem, and people have different priorities, but I think it's really good what you guys are doing, and I think we can showcase a lot of the great people in Regina.
100%. Sweet.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Awesome.
much.
Thank you so
you.
much, Lisa.